The age of broken video games.
I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the PS4 and Xbox One era is all of the games that released in just a totally busted state. Don't get me wrong.
Cyberpunk's like the major one there, right? Is there a worse one from like the PS4, PS5 kind of like era of as of late? I can't think of another one that's worse than Cyberpunk was. And it's bad. It's even worse because like I feel like the game is probably pretty damn good now that they've like fixed it up a bit and enjoyable to play. It has a bad reputation now.
Wrong. Broken games have existed since long before the PS4 and Xbone. Shout out Superman 64.
Oh my god.
Hi, Clark, how are you? Good to see you. Haven't seen you since college when you lasered that.
I never
professor.
played this,
but
but
there definitely weren't nearly as many.
I feel like so notorious.
AAA busters. You know, Big Rigs is barely.
No Man's Sky, was that PS4 era or was that right at the beginning of the PS4 era? It's been a long time since No Man's Sky came out.
Comprehensible, but that game was made by one.
Yo, that game looks sick.
Not a giant AAA Megatron. Back in the prehistoric days of the Xbox 360 and PS3, downloading an update to fix issues or add stuff to your disc-based game after its release was like a fairly new concept, but like an actually pretty cool concept. Wait, so the interweb can make my already legendary game even more legendary by downloading this epic Chuck Norris update? That's pretty likable.
I remember for Halo 2 going to GameStop and buying discs to download more maps. That was how you got new maps.
Boss. I see no way this could ever end badly for the consumer.
Halo,
In 2007, I just saw Michael Clayton. But nowadays, the disc inside that case you just bought is practically dead weight the second you've installed the game and downloaded the likely necessary giant update full of fixes not included on the disc. Because the disc was actually manufactured months prior to the game's set release date, and the developers kept working on stuff during that time, likely because the publisher set the release date way too early and were just like, it's fine, everyone has the internet, you'll fix it in time, just never stop working. You don't have to see your family. Your family is dumb. Your families are literally the cringiest idiots I've ever seen. Why do you want to go home to them? Doo-doo, goofy. Your family? L. The disc man.
There's something actually wrong with the fucking video game industry when it comes to crunch and stuff. There's so much shit that is shoveled out in like, I mean, most people do have internet these days to like get updates. And I have to think that's what they're always banking on. But like, how many games don't have day one updates now? I actually can't think of one. Pokemon? I thought when I installed Pokemon, it still had a day one update. And it was still broken.
May as well just be a doctor's note that tells your PS4, yes, my son actually does own the game. Now, go ahead and give him the necessary day one flu shot. Oh my god, it's 87 gigabytes. Fallout 76 didn't even actually come with a disc.
Oh god.
So you actually just got a cool new blue coaster for your psychotic Reddit dungeon. Basically, if you don't have internet access nowadays as a gamer, you're screwed. But my goal with this video...
Wait. Is Fallout 76 still a thing? And like, did they fix it in a way that it's like playable? Or is it like absolute garbage dump? It's still up, it's decent? Okay. Already, the main thing that I remember related to Fallout 76 is like the bag drama that they had with like, they had like some special like type of like canvas or something the bag was supposed to be made out of, and then they gave like people like this super cheap ass like bag instead.
It isn't just to be like, wow, things used to be better back in the day, and
least
now they're all bad.
It was like the giant,
because it's not
like,
that
collector's
simple
edition
or
thing.
True. Big budget broken video games exist for a lot of reasons. The first one being making video games is just really hard. I have been openly critical of many big budget AAA games on this channel, but I hope that I have always made one thing very crystal Pepsi clear. A lot of very talented people work very hard for very long, crunchy nature hours to make even seemingly simple stuff like this possible. and it's crazy. And in order for a game to be even considered pretty good by the general public, gameplay, sound, story, characters, performance, all of these things have to perfectly align in the gamer night sky. Obviously, modern technology has made creating virtual worlds a lot easier than it was back in the 80s or 90s. And
I don't know if it's made it easier. I feel like expectations have changed. When the games were like this, there was less people working on it, and it was more simple games. And so you could like fine tune those games yourself until it was like good. Or like, obviously there's games that were not good, but like I think in these days, the games are so basic that a smaller group of people could work on them, as opposed to these like monolithly large teams that like so many people touch them. And that makes it why it's more difficult, because expectations have changed, like what we get in our games. I don't know. It feels like that's like a major that's a major difference.
And I think we often take that for granted. We've come a long way from the days where 3D was a bit more of a fluid, abstract concept like jazz, and you aimed a gun with the same finger you
God, GoldenEye.
But with better tools and better hardware comes bigger projects, with bigger budgets, with bigger teams, with bigger lists of bigger problems that your big ass better fix with your big tractor. And if you've ever been hanging out with a big group, you know that even doing something as simple as deciding where to go for dinner can quickly become a f***ing boss fight. Especially when your friend's mom, who's paying for the dinner, has all these crappy dinner demands because she's trying to satisfy her dinner shareholders. This metaphor is getting a little goofy. I think you get the point. I know half of you are just thinking about Michael Clayton still. So I think the first obvious reason for AAA games releasing in a
What the fuck? Which Assassin's Creed was this?
Michael Clayton still. So I think the first.
What? Is that Unity? Oh my god.
The most obvious reason for AAA games releasing in a broken state is that game development is just insanely hard and requires so much dedicated collaboration and efficient
I didn't play that one.
And it's a miracle that any video game ever gets finished and even exists at all, and all video games should go to heaven. The second reason is okay, buddy, that's enough out of you. Hi, I'm NakeyJakey, and Jakey, attorneys at law, and I'm here to tell you about today's video sponsor.
Oh, okay,
PayPal.
there we go.
Honey is a free online shopping tool that automatically searches for promo codes at checkout.
Like what the fuck is happening?
Detective, so that you don't have to.
That was mega jank when it came out. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Probably already buying. Like shoes,
the last Assassin's Creed that I played was Black Flag, and that one was really, really damn good.
It's completely free. Hey, no objections over here. Sustained and overruled. Shit. Anytime you see your little dancing detective up here, just click apply coupon.
Black Flag was my first PS4 game that I played.
Dang. I recently needed a new lawyer briefcase.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
The previous one was covered in so much mud.
That one came out a decade ago. Yeah, and I really, really, really enjoyed Assassin's Creed. Like AC1, 2, Brotherhood. I never played the third of Ezio's, and then I played 3. 3 was, I didn't like 3. And then Black Flag. I didn't like how they resolved the Desmond stuff at all. I like the side stuff, and I thought it was like leading up to like them doing like a modern day Assassin's Creed, like through real cities and shit like that, which is like almost like it would have been like Spider-Man almost if they did that. But I was a little disappointed they didn't go a little bit more hardcore at like modern, like a modern setting, like build up to that just to see how it would be. But it'd probably be jank. I hear Valhalla is good. I have heard mixed things about Valhalla and God, what's the Greek one? Odyssey. Thank you. Those are the two that I've heard have gotten better.
For reasons I'm not at liberty
but
to
there's
say.
still issues with them.
I looked online for a cute new backpack that Honey found a coupon.
They butchered the historical aspect of it.
Google Chrome, Opera, Firefox, Safari, or for whatever
I feel like
reason,
that was a pretty
Microsoft
key
Edge,
thing to
you
the
can
original
add Honey
games,
to
but
your
I don't think
browser
it's
for free
necessary
by going to
make the game good.
joinhoney.com/NakeyJakey. Using my special link
Yeah, it definitely
helps the
used to
channel
be.
and is
It used to be a selling
greatly
point.
by all of the attorneys here at Jakey, Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey. Thank you to Honey for sponsoring this video, and now let's get on back to this episode of Nabo Jabo in the age of Michael Clayton. As most of you in the audience know, new video games sell around $60, or I guess now $70 on PS5 and Xbox Series S, X. Why the f did they call them that? And it's been around that $50 to $60 price point for a while, even though
The $70 price point, I haven't seen that on a PC game yet. Is there a PC game with $70 price point? It's only consoles, right? Oh, Diablo 4 is? What? See, I haven't played. I've only like briefly watched people play that, and I still feel like I'm gonna play it at some point. I don't know if I'll play it right off the bat. We're talking about pre-order a base game, just the base game, or like a pre-order version of it, not like a collector's edition. Like obviously collector's editions go beyond this price point, right? But like the base game, no DLC, no like extra add-ons, cosmetics, whatever. Like we go with the absolute like base game. I feel like Diablo would be, I guess, the first one that I've heard of that's 70 for PC. Obviously, there's a ton on like Xbox or PlayStation that are $70.
AAA games take way longer to make now and have way bigger budgets than back in the day when I was star quarterback. So because of all that, and also inflation, in some cases, it's kind of a steal to get a game like Elden Ring for only $60 when Eternal Ring was $50 23 years ago. And the swords in that game are tiny. They're not nearly as girthy.
Wait.
Eternal Ring.
Is that made by FromSoft? What is the comparison here? Because that also is made by FromSoft? I've never heard of this. But I was like, for a second looking at it, it looked like a Kingsfield.
Was $50 23 years ago. And the swords in that game are tiny. They're not nearly as girthy or as long as Elden Ring. You go out in public with that shrinking ink, I'll kick your ass. Donkey Online has a really good video about video game pricing that you should go watch later, but not right now. If you leave, you won't see how I learned how to spin. I'm gonna spin later. You're gonna want to see that. So if you're a company whose main priority at the end of the day is just to generate as much profit as humanly possible, why not cut a few corners, you know, assuming
they grew up and they made good games.
All that important to you. Because if it's a choice between A, spending millions of dollars for every month that you lengthen development time to ensure that you release a relatively bug-free and finished product, and hope it eventually pays off because lots of people recognize that it's good quality and buy it and sing your praises and you win awards at the big show and Jeff goes, oh man, your game is so big, it's the biggest game I've ever seen, dude. Which is all a very big gamble. Or B, set a very unrealistic release date that you know damn well you will not make.
If you're greedy, you go with the later one. But I feel if you're in it for the long term and you want a good reputation and you want a lot of people to buy your game, the other one's probably better. If you're going to go into game development at all. Obviously, it's easier said than done when you're paying a lot of people and then there's money just fucking disintegrating. And there's nothing coming back from it. Do companies care about reputation at this point? It depends on the company. From has a lot of hit or miss stuff. I'm trying to think of something lately that they've had a miss on. I'm assuming there's probably Armored Core games that people could probably bring up that are like these are misses. But I'm trying to think of one recently. The people who made Cyberpunk had a good rep before Cyberpunk. Yeah, didn't that, like, I feel like a lot of people like really like propped up The Witcher. I was like a series, but I don't know much of what else CD Projekt Red made besides The Witcher. So I guess my assumption is that as far as gamers go, or like game audience, CD Projekt Red was like, had like a lot of people hyped for Cyberpunk because they had been teasing it for so long and it'd been game development hell. And I thought the visuals looked really good, especially with how they were like promoting it. And they had somewhat of a good reputation previous to that like they wouldn't probably have been able to sustain after failing and the game being brought down like off the actual PlayStation Store, like post launch, had they not had a good reputation beforehand. And obviously the anime helped like revitalize this a bit, but like, I don't know.
And force your team to crunch their asses off only to still release a broken game that you'll maybe eventually fix with a giant update long after release and after you've
It's even questionable if that would happen though after the fact.
Definitely see a return on your giant investment and see order bonuses and
I mean, I assume the only reason they went out of their way so much to like patch this shit is probably because it got taken off the store. And it was in their best interest to like not have a situation where their product was completely not sellable on like a store. Like they were pretty much given the situation where they're fucked if they didn't. But had it just been a case where like had a bunch of bugs and it was still on the store, it probably would have stayed up. And they probably wouldn't have changed as much. But they probably went to drastic situations because of the fact that they couldn't sell it because it got taken down.
Fancy trailers with celebrities just to guarantee that people buy your game before gamers can even know that the game is busted as hell, because you've also made it so that no publication can drop a review for the game until the day the game comes out, which should be illegal. Yeah, if the only thing you care about is sales in your quarterly reports, you're definitely planting at bomb site B, just like Ubisoft and EA and Bethesda and Square Enix and Activision and CD Projekt Red and Microsoft. Like several times. You very rarely see Sony or Nintendo or Rockstar publish a big broken unfinished mess because they know
I think Pokemon Violet and Scarlet have a word to say about Nintendo.
That their
not so sure about that one.
A big reason people purchase games that have their cute little sexy logos in the corner. The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, God of War, all of these Sony exclusives released in relatively bug-free and complete states. And, well, Days Gone was iffy, but we don't have to talk about Days Gone. Yeah, I said your name, sweetie. Now go back to bed, okay?
I didn't even know that a game existed until, like, after the launch. All I know is that shit's a buggy mess, and that's all I know about it. I didn't even know it was, like, a PlayStation game.
Doesn't mean that those devs didn't have to crunch like hell to reach the finish line. No, unfortunately, crunch is a huge problem across the entire industry, and even Golden Girl publishers and developers like Sony and Naughty Dog aren't exceptions to that. It's still very much not ideal. But apparently even Golden Girls like Nintendo or Rockstar, companies with some of the highest rated games of all time under their championship belt, they push Site B too. It's B, rush B, rotate B, rotate B. The Definitive Trilogy was one of the most appalling and disappointing re-releases of a beloved franchise that the world has ever seen. And this is Rockstar,
what the fuck?
The company that put out this game, and this game, and this game, and this game.
All right, I don't understand at all how you have games that were fine and then all of a sudden they're broken as fuck when you port them. It seems like it should just be an easy thing to not have happen. You test the fucking game, at least. I mean, maybe they were just like, this is what they were like, yeah, the game was good back then. Just fuck QA. We don't need to worry about that. Port that shit instantly and just fucking ship it. And that's what happened. Like, how do you have the 3 Grand Theft Auto games that mostly playable with no issue for very little issues, all of a sudden do that? Yeah, GTA did not age well. Probably old code that didn't translate well. Yeah, it's just, if you bother to put QA in, you would know that that there was broken shit in it. Like that's pretty bad.
And fuck it, even this game is amazing. And you know money isn't tight with how much of a
that
cash
table
cow
tennis game
GTA
was
5
good.
continues to be 10 years later. Like, this isn't an indie publisher rushing out Hog Simulator 3 because they're strapped for cash after their Kickstarter
Yeah, that's
sale.
true.
No,
Configuring
this
it
is
for
Rockstar.
mouse and keyboard, that's fair.
It's just greed. I don't know if it falls on Rockstar or their parent company Take-Two, but at some point, someone or someone's somewhere said, "F it, we'll do it live." And Nintendo, they just published the 2 lowest rated mainline Pokemon games to ever exist. Games now famous online for their hilarious bugs. And I ain't talking about Caterpie. And even if there's a fun game buried underneath all the bugs, it should be illegal to advertise and sell a product in this state. And that brings me to my final reason that
I don't think it's that bad. I enjoyed playing it. I know it's broken, there's issues with it, but I didn't think it was that bad. Granted, I didn't run into those issues. So, I don't know. It's really hard for me to say, like, because I've seen some crazy shit with Pokemon Scarlet and Sapphire, or Scarlet and Violet.
I think broken AAA games will continue to exist. I touched on this in my ads and video games video, but oh my god, stop pre-ordering games. That's why these companies keep promising to serve you hot lunch square pizza and then go, psych, you're getting slopped. Because they know the average consumer is gullible as hell and overly trusting and super loyal to their favorite thing, and they prey on those sensibilities to make sure that your money ends up in their pocket. And it does. Every single time.
Okay. There is no way with the scale of some of these games that you're going to get people to stop pre-ordering. It's too, like, in the culture. And just telling people to stop pre-ordering is never going to work. When you have that many people buying the fucking game, it will not work. And there's too many fucking people that do not look into the game beyond, like, that much. Like, I don't know how in any world that you get into a situation where this is ever going to change with pre-orders, because I do agree that pre-orders are somewhat of a problem. I don't think this is ever going to change. This is too deep-seated in people, like, it just telling people don't do it won't work. Because too many people just are like, oh, I'm just going to buy this game because I like game.
Pokemon was busted as hell and still sold 20 million copies. It's like serious gamer Stockholm syndrome, where people will watch a pre-release review for a game like Dying Light 2 on IGN or GameSpot and defend the game like their fucking life depends on it.
I actually don't think many people watch reviews. So that isn't going to help in the first place. I don't think a lot of people use this as a, like, there's definitely a portion of people that use reviews. Don't get me wrong. But I think at a mass audience level, when you're dealing with something like Pokemon, that's or like Call of Duty or any other game, people are just going to buy it anyways. Reviews are for validating my opinions. Yeah, I feel like that's, hold on, that is completely what it is. It's like, I want to go feel good about myself and the money that I spent, so I'm going to go read the review. Like, that's what people think, legitimately. Like, there's a large portion of people that do that, that care about reviews. The people who don't care about reviews, they're gonna buy the game anyways if they don't care. And the best thing, the closest thing I think you can get people not buying or buying a game is like you seeing that your friend is playing a game and then they tell you about it, or they're just telling you about it in general. Maybe they'll give their opinion and you trust their opinion. Like, word of mouth is probably the thing that'll deter you more than anything, if at all. Unless a game is extremely buggy, and that's what I'm hearing, I genuinely am going to play a game regardless of a fucking review. Like, this has no hold on anything. Like, reviews to me are, like, literally there to, like, almost make fun of. If anything. It's, like, comedy to me. Because game reviewers, like, it's like the whole meme with, like, game reviewer mode. Like, for a lot of these things, is they struggle to even play the goddamn games. Like, which even blows my mind, because if you're playing all these games to review them, how are you bad at games in the first place? Like, how do you provide bad footage?
even though they haven't even played it yet. Okay guys, but remember, this is without the day one patch, and we all know those usually fix everything. You can't spell ignorant without IGN or
Mario
ants.
review
And even
versus
months
viewers
after
is
the
like
damage is done,
reviews
broken
versus
product
viewers
has
is a
sold
good
millions of
comparison.
copies because apparently gamers have toasters for brains. People in the comments will once again applaud and defend companies like EA or CD Projekt Red for sticking with their game and fixing it long after release, which it's like, I guess that deserves some level of praise, maybe? You know?
I think if it's in the plans and it looks like it's in the plans to just fucking release a broken game and just patch it later, I definitely think there's like something where like people should not trust this shit. But from the consumer's end that sits there and waits to play the game, if they hear it's broken, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Kai, you can't say much when you main 14. No, I can't. No, I can't. I've always like sat here and told you guys 100% that like I was completely blind because and I didn't give a shit. Back when I played 14 at the very beginning, because I was playing the alpha, I was one of the people that were sitting there playing alpha and ignoring the problems like completely. All I saw on the screen, oh my god, HD cat girl. Oh my god, I'm so happy. HD cat girl, HD cat girl, HD cat girl. Look at all the better graphics and all this kind of shit. And I completely ignored like the problems. I didn't care that the game was broken. And when the release happened, I grinded the shit out of the game until I hit like level cap. And then I realized pretty quickly I'm not actually having fun. And there's so many broken issues with this game that I just gleefully ignored. And you know what that led to? Is me stop playing 14 at the time when it actually released. And I did eventually come back a few times when it was like broken or like fixed and tried it out. And they also like gave us free subscriptions and stuff early on because of how broken it was. So it was like pretty easy to come back and check out whenever they did make updates, and they did make updates to the game. Like it wasn't difficult to do. And I still seriously to this day will say 1.23b, they did a pretty good job at making an actual base game that was pretty good. If they had released what they had in 1.23b, we would have never left the 1.0 era for how that game worked. I really don't think we would have. Would it be as popular like it is now? No. But it would have sat there just as well as FF11 did and had a population that plays it. It just wouldn't be massive. It wouldn't be a massive Final Fantasy game. Endwalker broke my rose-colored glasses for the game. I've been very cynical ever since 1.0 happened, and I kind of had that broken. Even when they were doing a really good job, I've always had like this cynical look. Do I always show it? No, probably not. And I probably give them a lot more credit sometimes because I feel like I've been through that whole entire cycle. But Endwalker definitely has like showed me that they can still screw up when it comes to at least content provided post Endgame or post MSQ. I think the MSQ's fine. Like I don't see any problems with the MSQ, and I'm not saying the story is bad or anything like that. But I think the content at the end of Endwalkers, it is not their best performance for sure. I think the one thing that does blind some people right now is they got 2 ultimates, especially with like hardcore raiders and stuff. I think the 2 ultimates really blinds people, at least in hardcore raiding. And maybe those people are still cynical even with that. But I've seen some people that say Endwalker has good content literally, and they point out because of ultimate. Is this part that they're working on 16? I think it is, personally. I think they've shifted a decent number of the dev team over to 16, and it concerns me that they won't come back if 16 is successful, and they'll just move on to the next Final Fantasy project Because if 16 is largely successful, and I believe it will be based on what I've seen, I know that I shouldn't say, I should not say that 16 is going to be successful, but my impression is I think it will be. And I think that's going to lead to them pushing like core dev members that used to be on 14 to other projects, like for Business Division 3. But we'll see. I think even they say top was a rush job. I haven't done it, and I hate talking about it in a sense of like I know anything about top beyond like what I see and what I read for people's opinions. But it's not something that I've ever been encouraged to do. Whereas other ultimates, I've been so tempted to attempt. Or I guess I've only not done one of them, right? Or I've only not done top and Dragon Song. But Dragon Song has given me so much temptation multiple times to at least go and attempt and try. Like I've actively sought potentially doing it. But top, I am not encouraged to touch that shit. It looks so demoralizing comparatively. To be frank, those devs have to move on eventually. They don't have to. I never feel that devs have to move on. It's usually their choice themselves, or the company wants to encourage another project. If the dev shows interest in that other project and the company is making another project, then of course they're gonna go over. If it lines up. But if you have a game that is successful as 14 and is constantly printing money, I don't think you should destroy that thing or like take away from that thing that is making you a lot of money because you're going to start deteriorating your user base. I think it's more important to like create something as a replacement first to shift that user base over to that is quality. That's more important first, because if you don't have a replacement for those people for them to play, if you're gonna try and shift dev resources over, they're gonna just naturally go over to other games and find the other games more important, or like lose interest in your game. And I suspect that's slightly happening right now, at least with people getting burnt out. Obviously, people who have been playing 14 for a very long time they'll stay around and push through it. That's me, because I've been through the worst. But I do see a lot of people being very, very discouraged with playing. I'm not going to point it out, but there are people that are part of my community that feel this way. And I know they stopped playing a lot, and they don't want to play as much. And they used to play a lot, especially, and maybe it was because of COVID. I don't know. But, like, they're not around as much in-game, or they don't, or like, unsubscribe or just don't play a lot, because I feel like the games actively discourage them from wanting to show interest in the game, and it does make them seem very jaded. I don't care so much, because I'm going to play 14 no matter what, probably, unless it goes back to a 1.0 level of type of situation. And I'll just like space out how I play 14. And some people will be like, oh, that's the healthy choice to make. I argue that that's not smart for a game that's a subscription base. Because the second you start having people deteriorate and start losing their subscription is when they find other things more useful, and then you don't have a user base anymore. You have less of a budget. The game quality goes down naturally. And especially in Square Enix's case, I feel like 14 is the cash cow of the whole entire company, and you don't want to deteriorate that. 16 is important, because it's to get the mainline Final Fantasy titles, I think, back in a good standing that are not multiplayer. But I don't think that's important enough to sacrifice part of your cash cow. And maybe I don't know enough about business, but just because 14 recovered and did a substantial job with Endwalker, or sorry, leading up to Endwalker, does not mean that it's going to permanently stay in that position. So I'm a bit concerned long term what happens after 16. If this is how things are going to go, is every time a new project comes up for Business Unit 3 that 14 gets hit hard, maybe the next expansion is maybe this is literally just like this. I want to be clear. This whole entire thing could just be they wanted to do something different because they've been stuck on 14 for so goddamn long, and they earned this kind of to have another game that is completely fresh, and that's fair. I think that is completely a fair thing. And this is just a result of, hey, Endwalker was kind of like, let's have a cool down period. Let's relax. The game's going to go right back into full force with the next expansion. That could 100% happen, and I might be entirely wrong. And I don't want to say that won't happen. It's just right now, in the current state, it's scary. Because they even called it Endwalker, and it's a resolution to the story. And it makes me think, okay, of course the game company's not going to say, oh, we're going to just kind of slowly trickle the game to lower and lower content. We're going to still but we're going to keep people a little bit interested here and there, and we're going to focus on other projects. It's not like I'm concerned that that's my biggest concern right now. The thought of marketing it as the end was a weird move. Yeah, exactly. Well, not gonna lie, the Stormblood going free to keep has had a resurgence in new plus returning free-to-play members, which has also been good for the game. But the free-to-play members don't get Stormblood. What do you mean? Sorry, I'm not. That wasn't trying to be like contentious. I'm asking, like, Stormblood isn't a free trial. It is not a free trial. It is you have to be paying for the game to get that thing, and you had to have had up to Heavensward plus paying a subscription to get it. No, they do no. Free to play does not get Stormblood right now. You have to be paying for the starter edition. So that's not true. Yeah. Heavensward is where it is for free people. Like, hold on. I do want to say this. I bet that's coming soon. I would bet on it coming soon. I don't think it's yet. But I would imagine with the next year or two, maybe 3, Stormblood gets the free trial treatment. Maybe it's once the expansion comes out that happens, and they've exhausted enough time. Yeah, maybe I would guess sometime in the 7.0 series. Sometime. That would be my bet. That it will happen. But obviously I don't know. But I would bet on it. And they'll gradually do that. The only time that I imagine they may full fucking stop with the free trial and not go any farther is Shadowbringers. Because Shadowbringers going free doesn't make sense because of how like the quality level that happens MSQ wise with Shadowbringers, and you want to tease people up to the very last point of like, okay, you have all of this content between 2.0 to 4.0, and then you have Shadowbringers, which is like the notorious, this is the expansion, right? I can totally see them like holding that out on free to play permanently and never giving that free to play, just because of its like notoriety. Would notoriety be the right word? Notoriety of being like a good, like one of the best expansions as far as like story goes. Yeah, if Shadowbringers, it's not a trial. Well, to some degree, the more expansions you get, you can move along how far you are in the trial. Okay, sorry. Let's go back to the video. I think we got a major tangent there. I did.
You know what I mean? It's like you buy a taco for the full price because you were advertised.
It's a Taco Bell Cantina.
Taco screen. And when you get that taco, you open up the greasy paper just to see a busted ass half taco shell with only beans on it. Only beans. Oops, all beans. And then 6 months later, a Taco Bell employee rings your doorbell and gives you the other half of that busted taco that still doesn't have all the meat on it that they promised.
I'd eat it.
And your response is to start clapping? Like, what the f***? And don't get me wrong, definitely throw love to the hardworking individual devs that actually got in the crunchy taco shell trenches and coded this broken mess back together. But give zero f***ing credit to the shitty overlord Taco Bell EA Corporation responsible for that broken taco that you paid full price for in the first place. God damn it, I need a taco or at least a churro to the throat.
I need more tacos.
A lot of initially broken games can eventually blossom into really good ones, like No Man's Sky, Master Chief Collection. Final Fantasy XIV was like completely reborn,
see?
pun intended. And
Talking
people
about
love it now, and that's awesome. But this cycle will repeat as long as gamers continue to buy games and pre-order games before even knowing if it runs as well as the pudding on their treadmill. The only possible change starts with you and what you choose to spend your money on. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep getting anthems shoved into our ant holes. But you know what they say, you can't spell NakeyJakey without Jane or Kevin. I'm gonna start uploading more stuff.
Oh
to
my god!
People, so if
bro, those golden tips. Wait, what the fuck? What happened to the video?
And NakeyJakey and Jakey Attorneys at Law for sponsoring
what the fuck?
this
I think that's just a video. I was able to click past it.
I can't enforce that as I am not your legal guardian. And I'll see you next time on the Gamer Wars. It's good to be back. I'm excited. I got more videos in the.
Okay. I think this is like massively frustrating to me that a lot of games do this, obviously, because I think my latest example was when I did play Wulong and then also Elden Ring initially. There were issues on PC where it was causing me a lot of lag. And it made it frustrating to play those games because I basically had to adjust settings that I didn't feel like I should have to adjust and like reduce the quality especially. Elden Ring's obviously not that big of a deal because the rest of the gameplay's fine. Obviously, it was a performance issue. And performance issues are less. But I've seen like there's differentiations in ports, especially lately.